Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. I am Holly Poole. I'm a professional astrologer and healthiologist. And today I want to come together to talk about the new moon that we will see. It will be the new moon in May, on the 8th of May. So we'll work our way towards that. But it's a new moon that's going to be at 18 degrees Taurus. Now, if you happen to be a Taurus yourself, or any of the what we refer to as the fixed signs, which is Taurus, which is Leo, which is Scorpio, which is Aquarius, and if you've listened to astrologers online, there's been pretty much a whole lot going on directly connected around those fixed signs. And sometimes we zero in, and you might say, well, I'm not a Leo myself. You might say, I'm a Gemini, but my moon is at 15 or 16 degrees Taurus. Is that affecting me? Yes, it is. When it affects our moon sign in our chart, it affects our emotional side to life. When it affects our sun sign, it affects who we are at the very inner core of us as individuals. Many of you may say, well, my ascendant in the chart is at the middle degrees of Taurus. Will that affect me? Yes. Look in your whole entire chart, your entire chart. That includes the angles. So the angles are straight across the horizon line or straight up and down, the midheaven, the IC line. That's all included. Do you have anything within your chart in that middle degrees of Taurus? Anywhere around that 14, 15, 16 degrees of Taurus. That part of your chart is going to be very highlighted. Now, lots of times, and I talked about this on my Holly Poole Astrology Facebook page. If you've not signed up for that, then by all means, come visit me there. I try to write every day about various astrological alignment. And so, as a matter of fact, today I'm recording this on the 23rd of April, so I'm well ahead of the pack. It takes time to do these and then to upload them and so on. But today I specifically talked about when different planets, we call it transiting planets, planets that are moving around up there in the sky, when any of those planets actually align with anything going on in our actual chart, we are very much affected. Now, you've often heard me, for those of you who've been following me for a while, you've often heard me say when planets form a square to each other, we don't like that because squares provide annoyances. However, if one of those transiting planets, look up to the sky the way it is now, if one of those transiting planets are squaring one of your natal planets, so one of your planets in your own natal chart, yeah, it may be setting up an annoyance, but maybe with that particular planet in your natal chart, your birth chart, that may be supported somewhere else directly in your natal chart. So it means in our charts, in our natal charts, before we are born, again, being an evolutionary astrologer, believing that we choose our birth date, place, and time before coming to Earth, our chart is our chart, the full core of who I am. We write in many things within that chart to help us survive some of the bips and bips and bips and bops and that happen in life. So it's also important to see what other aspects are going on, because that's also the way that will help you to determine how difficult this square to the Venus is going to be, or how easy this trine to your Venus may be. So don't just totally get caught up in the fact that, oh my God, it's sitting right on my Venus. My love life is going down the drain. That may not necessarily be the case at all. It depends on looking at the whole entire chart. And I think that sometimes this is what the difficulty is when people have said to me, oh, well, Holly, I just sent away for a computer printout. That doesn't take everything into account. It just usually looks at that square to your Venus. It doesn't tendency to look at what other help and so on that's gone on within your chart. So before we have a dramatic meltdown, it's worth taking a greater look into this. Let me share my screen. And yep, even though I said we're going to look at the new moon, for sure, we definitely are. But I'm going to start a day at the beginning of May. And I know I kind of covered this in one of my last videos, but I want to take a moment here because, we've come pretty much through the last 3 or 4 months. Most of the planets have been moving their way forward. Certainly all of the outer planets. Once Uranus turned direct at the ending part of January, we've just had a straight way through. Yep, as I'm doing this, the ending part of April, well, not the end, 23rd of April, we're still in the midst of the Mercury retrograde, but that's considered a personal planet. It's not one of the outer planets. I did start here with the video starting on the 1st of May, and the reason I did is because on May 1st, Pluto, that planet of endings, to create new beginnings, is going to be the first outer planet to actually start to retrograde. Now, Pluto, Pluto has been digging down. Pluto is the god of the underworld. Pluto digs up all this crap that most times people, let's just keep it hidden and nobody knows, and that's a better way to keep it. Pluto has been trying to shift the power on the Earth plane. You may not be seeing anything great, but if you look at the little bits and pieces that actually has been happening, you will see that government control, the larger controls, are really starting to lose their footwork. People are starting to take back the power. And of course, as most of you know, I'm from Canada. I'm from Nova Scotia. Not originally, I'm a Newfie, but I live in Nova Scotia. And, looking back in time, the Freedom Convoy is very much a resemblance of this whole Pluto in Aquarius. It's really what we are finding with Pluto and Aquarius. Aquarius is the humanitarian side. Pluto is the looking at, trying to discover, trying to create, trying to make happen, empathy, sympathy, all of that. And Pluto has been moving forward. Now you can see Pluto only managed to make it to 2 degrees. Like that's as far as Pluto got. Why? Because it takes Pluto 264 years to make it all the way around the zodiac. So it doesn't move anywhere very quickly. Pluto slipped into Aquarius. Then it slipped back into Capricorn. Then it came into Aquarius and it slipped back into Capricorn. We have one more round like that. So Pluto is presently in Aquarius. On May 2nd, so just watch Pluto here. On May 2nd, Pluto now starts to retrograde. And I always envision Pluto going, yeah, well, I guess society has had enough of me for just right now, because that was in October, on the 10th of October last year, that Pluto started to move forward. So Pluto's going to say, well, okay, I put that in order, this 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 in order, and this in order. Okay, I'm going to retrograde now. Pluto's not going to turn back around again until the 12th of October. So for those of us who are fixed signs, because Aquarius is also the fixed sign. So those of us who are fixed, that were born around that 21, 22, 23 mark, you know, again, we've got Taurus, we've got Leo, we've got Scorpio, we've got Aquarius. You guys have really been pounded on. And I don't say that lightly. I am an Aquarian. Now, my sun sign is at 3 degrees Aquarius. I was born on the 23rd of January. So Pluto has been kind of, you know, you feel that shaving of the edges. And what's happening with all of our fixed signs is that Pluto is gone. Let's move you out of your comfort zone. Let's push. Let's push. Let's push you out of the way you normally would do things. Let's push you out of the way you normally would think of things. Let's push you out of your comfort zone. I mean, it's really Pluto that's got me doing YouTube videos. If Pluto had not gone into Aquarius, that may not have ever happened. So Pluto is doing that push. How many of you have your moon around that 1, 2, 3, 4 degree Aquarius? That's the case. Your emotions, the way you are dealing with your emotions, are really changing. How many of you have your Mercury? Mercury is our planet of our communication. How many of you have your Mercury around that 1, 2, 3, 4 degree of Aquarius or Leo or Scorpio? How many of you have that? Well, Mercury then is affecting your communication, affecting the way you do communicate. Perhaps previously you may have been concerned, if I say that, if I say I'm into astrology, will people just be horrified? Your way you communicate is changing. So Pluto actually, you know, set up the whole freedom convoy, set up the whole bit about the Emergency Act, freedom of people who are doing complementary medicine and the healthcare, not necessarily seeing into that. Pluto has dug down and bringing up. I mean, when you look at the news or you look at YouTube or corruption, was the same type of a corruption still around in like the 60s and the 70s? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Pluto was going through Leo at the time, which is exactly opposite where it was back in the 40s. So Pluto is now, as I said, Pluto on that 2nd of May is kind of sitting back and saying, okay, all right, I institute a change here. 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 Let's see how that's going to fall out. Let's see how that's going to make itself known. And trust me, wherever Pluto, whatever house, and if you look on your outside rim of your chart and look for the sign of Aquarius, wherever that is the house where the numerous amounts of change and finishings is actually happening. So I just wanted to go there because I just think that Pluto has done massive change. But because, again, it takes Pluto so long to make its way through. And Pluto will slip back into the last degrees of Capricorn. And we will see that roughly around that October, November-ish time period of this year. And then when Pluto goes into Aquarius, now we're in for a long ride of Pluto, because Pluto is going to stay into Aquarius for a long time. We're looking for, 2040 or something, I think, by the time it comes out. So let me go directly to the new moon now. This is the moon coming here. So it's an interesting day, the 4th of May. You're going to want to make a note. The 4th of May, you're going to feel this massive push, an emotional push from Mars. Mars will be sitting at 3 degrees Aries. Now, in astrology, this creates a sextile with Pluto. So you're going to feel, Pluto will have stopped, but you're going to feel Pluto very in-depthly because Mars is going to say, for the love of God, get out of your own way, would you? And that's how you're going to experience it. Mars is the planet of aggression. And when Mars goes into Aries, Aries is the first one out of the gate. Aries is the first one ahead of the pack. Aries is, let's get going. Let's get moving. And the moon will be, we lined up with there. And that will be, the moon and Mars coming together. The moon will boot into behind. We got to get it out of this rut. It's time to get moving. And then, of course, as the days go on, then we come to the new moon. The new moon on the 7th of May. Now, the new moon in Taurus. So for those of you who like to play with your gemstones, Taurus is an earth sign. Taurus as well is often around in medical astrology. It's around our sinuses, but it's mainly around our jaw area and our teeth. I know that we have a lot of sensitive people who watch this video, And one of the things you will find with this new moon, you'll find tightness in your jaw. And so that will definitely be a time to ask, why? Ask the body. Stop for a few moments and ask the body, why are you holding tension? Number one, why are you holding tension? And lots of times Taurus has to do with the throat chakra, where we hold in our voice and hold in our words. Many years ago, I used to do gemstone therapy work. And when somebody would come because they were having neck pain, or sometimes that would radiate to shoulder pain, sometimes with doing that gemstone therapy work, I could bring it all down to this part of the body, which is, again, the jawline. And working directly with the jawline, quite often when I was doing that gemstone therapy work, I would actually lay a black gemstone by their jowls. And the reason being is because black gemstones, onyx, hematite, hematite is really a well-known one, jet, even snowflake obsidian, I would probably use, because black gemstones will absorb negativity. And that's also, if you are working around computers all day, that's also something that should be considered, to wear a hematite or a jet or an obsidian bracelet. Allow the magnetic field from the computers to be absorbed. So this in Taurus is interesting. That is our new moon. Now, interestingly enough, of course, as well, is that along with that new moon, we will be reigniting the Jupiter and Uranus that came together. I talked about that a lot in my video previous to this one, the full moon. And I talked about, it's interesting because I really felt that through that time period, we may start to see some real big issues with the banking industry. At this point, the 23rd of April, I've not seen anything massive. I have seen the Canadian government come out with their budget, their tax plans, and taxing the ultra rich, which is very much connected to Taurus. Taurus people, not all Taurus people are ultra rich, but Taurus people, if you notice a Taurus individual, they like expensive things. They have a very expensive taste. And I often talk about this, and maybe I did in some of the other videos. If you gave different signs $100, if you gave it to the Cancerian, they would probably go out and buy food for $50, and they'd put away their $50 for a rainy day somewhere, or maybe their kids might need it or something of that nature. If you gave it to a Gemini, they would probably go and buy 4 things for $25. If you gave it, however, to a Taurus, Taurus is going to go spend that $100 on that one thing that is, we'll call it expensive and nice. That's a lot of what that Jupiter, Uranus, the unexpectedness. Now, also from the Canadian side, we also are seeing the loony. the value of the loonie going down, down, down. And it's actually really, they talk about it being really quite surprising. I guess it's not surprising to me. Is that what will create a whole big upheaval connected into the banking industry? As I said, I'm doing this on the 23rd of April. We're not out of the water yet. And this new moon is only 5 degrees away from Uranus. So it's still within the orb of this new moon. And yes, this is a little bit, Jupiter is a little bit further outside of the orb. It is further than what I would normally call it. It's 8 degrees. I personally work on a 7 degrees. But in astrology, what's always very interesting is that we call this in a lot of ways a stellium because of all of the planets in Taurus. So Venus is within 7 degrees of the moon. The moon and the sun are the same. And because Jupiter and Uranus are only 3-degree orb, when we look at the orb, 17 to 22 being 5, we're just going to group in that whole Taurus bit. So there is a lot of focus at this new moon around money, money products. What about the cryptocurrency? What about the Bitcoin? What about the banking fees? What about the inflation rate? What about, are we going to cut the interest rates? What about thinking about the Canadian dollar at this stage? Taurus is also about land, which also I had to smile because the Canadian government is now talking about, they have all kinds of buildings around. That was Pluto in Capricorn, right? That took everybody out of their buildings in Aquarius and sent everybody home to work. That was Pluto in Aquarius. Pluto then come out of Capricorn. So now the government and perhaps all kinds of places have all these buildings that, what am I going to do with them? They're causing a lot of money, a lot of financial. This is all this Taurus. This is all this Jupiter and Uranus coming together in Taurus. How can we conserve? Can we take these extra buildings and make it into homes or apartments or condos? Or what can we do? What can we conserve? Taurus is also about land, our physical earth. So there's a lot going on, and I've said this many times before, I will watch world news, take it with a bit of a grain of salt, but I'm always curious. How are the planets playing into this? How are the planets making this happen? How are the planets bringing up the energy of this now? When we weren't a whole lot in the whole Taurus thing, say 2 years ago, that wasn't talked about, wasn't discussed. Why now? Well, why now? Because now we've got the planetary alignment supporting it now. That's why now. So when you actually step back and look at a lot of things that are going on in each of our lives, let me tell you, every single thing that is going on in your personal life is happening in your personal chart. People that I've done readings for the very first time, they will often go, wow, like I didn't realize an astrological chart could show all that. I got my astrology certification in 1994. Charts do not lie. They don't. And the interesting thing with this Jupiter is creating a trine. Jupiter is creating a trine to Black Moon Lilith. And I said before, there's a bit of egg on faces coming down here. You're going to find people who go, oops, yeah, right, sorry, let's fix that. That can come from government, that can come from large corporations. Watch it. Like, just watch and see how this all massively falls into play. It is incredible when we take the time to watch how this all works itself out. And up in the sky right here, you know, on the 7th of May, this new moon, there's a whole propensity in the chart in Taurus. There's a whole lot going on in Aries, a little bit in Pisces. Everything else is kind of scattered around. But if you look where in your chart you've got the sign of Aries on that outside rim and the sign of Taurus in that outside rim, and of course, Taurus always follows after Aries, so those two are kind of together. That's where there is such intensity going on in your actual life. Taurus is all about the money and the finances. There's probably a lot of people out there right now thinking about their money and their finances. Can I sell stuff off in order to get some money and finances? Aries says, how can I get myself going? Now, is it only people who are Aries or people who are Taurus that are being affected? No. Let's look at the sign that naturally is opposite. So what's the sign that is opposite the sign of Taurus? It's Scorpio. Our Scorpio friends are really feeling this absolute pull from all of these planets. And so the sign of Scorpio is over here. So how are they going to experience that? Scorpio is here, and it seems to be happening over here. So they feel they're just simply along for the ride. That's it. They're along for the ride. They have no power. They have no way of changing anything. They're just simply along for the ride. And perhaps the person who is shelling out all of this money. That's probably how the Scorpio friends are feeling. What is the sign opposite to the sign of Aries? Well, the sign of Aries, the opposite sign is Libra. And what's happening with our Aries or Libra friends, we've got the nodal axis. So the north node's at 15 degrees Aries, the south node 15 degrees Libra. You guys have had, Aries or Libra, have had, a good year or so with the nodal axis going through your signs. So the Aries side, as Aries here, got the north node. The north node is all about the fact of, what's my purpose? What's my next step? Where's my next step? How am I going to make my next step? Where is this step? How is this? How am I going to make that? Where is it coming up? Who knows about it? Who's going to put me on that trail? How am I going to get this information? How am I going to... Life is spinning. Life is feeling like it's spinning for our Aries friend. What's happening with our Libra friends? They're along for the ride, kind of like the Scorpio. Everybody else over here is the people who's pulling the strings. Everybody else is going to determine how I'm along for this ride, how we're going to make this happen, how this decision is happening over here, but I'm just kind of along for the ride. And that's how our Aries friends are dealing with a lot of this type of alignment. Now we'll see other people will pick up on this as time goes on. But if you know any Scorpios or you know any Libras, that's how they're feeling. They're just day by day by day. All right, let's move off the day of the new moon. And as we come, we're going to now see Venus and the sun. One of the things that we're going to look at is Venus sort of wanting to play catch up with the actual sun. And there's a great book called The Venus Star Point, if anyone's interested in really paying a lot of attention to the journey of Venus through the heavens. So as the moon comes up here to 29 degrees, we're on the 10th of May here. We now have the moon creating a square. Yeah, we don't like squares. The moon creating the square directly with Neptune. And so this is going to be an interesting day. Now we're all going to be experiencing it. The moon at the late degrees of Gemini. And always remember 29 degrees is considered in astrology as the it's gone, critical degree. And it's always such a karmic degree. So it's usually a day of high amount of karma happening. And so this is a day that no matter how much we try to talk and discuss about our dreams, it's a square, it says that we can't really entirely feel like we can get it expressed properly. Now, for those of you who watched my last video where I talked about the solar eclipse, or maybe that wasn't the last one, it's the one before that, the solar eclipse, I spent a fair amount of time talking about Chiron, and I talked about the full journey of Chiron, but even at the 10th of May, Chiron is still within the grips of that solar eclipse. So that solar eclipse that happened on the 8th of April, a lot of us would have made a lot of big plans, a lot of decisions, a lot of ideas on where we were going from here, Aries, right? First one out of the gate, how we were going to make a lot of those plans. Chiron is still saying, how are you doing with that? You know, how is that working? Now, the moon is trying to put some karmic spin to it on the day of May 10th. If you have any planets around that very late degree in mutable signs, our mutable signs are Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, Pisces, this is a day that you will be very affected by it. For our friends who are very late Pisces, sun sign, about 29 or so degrees Pisces, it's interesting times for you. And if I were doing readings for you, we would spend a lot of time about how to go about making some of your decisions in upcoming processes. Because with Neptune sitting on your sun sign, our big question is, are you actually seeing things clearly? And I would suspect maybe not with Neptune sitting on your sun sign. When we get we come along and we now are getting to the 13th of May. Now you can mark this on your calendar. I 100% guarantee you. The Sun and Uranus are sitting together. You can see they're both at 23 degrees Taurus. Expect this day to be a shocking day of some kind. Now, shock doesn't have to be bad, by the way, so let's not go down that road. But it is a timing, and I suspect when I talked about, when Jupiter and Uranus came together just around that middle part of April, they sort of made a plan together. They made a bit of a plan on where they were going, what they were doing, and how that was going to roll out. Well, when the Sun and Uranus comes together, the unexpectedness is just going to blow through there. And if your sun sign is sitting roughly around that 22, 23 degrees Taurus, or Scorpio, or Aquarius, or Leo, you've sort of been experiencing this Uranus on again, off again, on again, off again, on again, off again. And depending on what house it's happening within your chart determines what part of your life is actually being affected. Right here, just showing it, and I just used a whole house chart here, but if it's happening in the 6th house, your health is all over the map. If it's happening in your 10th house, your career world, we're doing this. No, we're not. Yes, we are. No, we're not. Yes, we are. No, we're not. It's happening in your 4th house, from a family perspective. Mom and dad just decided to break up. They've been together for 65 years, but they've just decided they found somebody else. Whatever it may be, it's a bit of the shock and awe situation. And we were in this same type of scenario even last year around March, April. There were some shocking things that either came out or was instituted. But we say that Uranus is sitting in the heart of the sun. And the sun will shine strongly on these unexpected events. As I said, it does not have to be bad. Now we've got Mercury. Mercury is headed the 15th of May. Mercury heads into Taurus. So we still got this whole big load of Taurus stuff going on. The Aries stuff is sort of breaking apart a bit, but the Taurus has become a bit compacted. The one who is very strong here, of course, is this Venus. Venus is sitting at 20 degrees Taurus, and you will find this is a day somewhere around that 15th of May where you will find yourself doing this all day, feeling the tablecloth, feeling the dress, feeling the material on the drapes, because Taurus people love the feel of things. And so when you got all these planets in Taurus, I'm not a Taurus, I'm an Aquarian, but we will all find ourselves. And on that particular day, you'll find feeling the paper, feeling the plastic, feeling it'll just be innate to do. And then when we get to the 18th, now we have Jupiter sitting in the heart of the sun. And Jupiter is our planet of good luck. Jupiter is our planet of good fortune. Let's all buy lotto tickets on that 18th of May. That's a day of good fortune and good luck. Now, we do have as well, on that exact same day, we do have Mars and the North Node sitting together. Mars and North Node. Mars is so strong in the sign of Aries, and Venus is so strong in the sign of Taurus. So our inner masculine femininity side to us will be in great balance here. And the moon is in the other sign ruled by Venus. So this is an interesting day, to say the least. I would call this a good luck day. I would call this a great day to do some planning things. We actually look, Neptune is still here, of course, at 29 degrees Pisces. And now we have the asteroid goddess Pallas Athene at 29 degrees Scorpio. So Scorpio is water, Neptune in Pisces is water. This creates a trine. This is a lovely trine to have happen. Pallas Athene says, I have decided I'm going to work on things that are going to make me happy. I will look into things. I will delve down underneath the depths to find out how I actually can and truly make this happen. And yeah, we do have the sun, but the sun is shining. The sun is shining. It's opposing Pallas Athene, but Jupiter is sitting in the heart of it. And both of those are just shining the light here on Pallas Athene to say, come on, you can do it. You can make this happen. So it's a lovely day from that perspective. And now by the time we get to the 20th of May, so this year, and the 20th of May is when the sun has now moved into the sign of Gemini. So we say happy birthday to our Gemini friends for the next 30 days, give or take. Now Mars is coming up into that ecliptic path. For those of you, again, who heard me talk about the solar eclipse, you've heard me say that with ecliptic energy, it sets up a vibration. And when planets go through that vibration, that's actually when things become highly vibratory. And we're going to see Mars enter here within the next 3 or 4 days. We'll watch this happening. That's a bit concerning for me. Let's actually take a look at what day, because it was at 19 degrees, 17, 18, 19 degrees. And I will cover that once I get into doing the full moon, because the full moon was actually at 23 on the 23rd. This is the full moon here on the 23rd, which I will cover on my next video. But I was watching Mars getting so close to that ecliptic. Now, Mars is the god of war. So that does create a bit of a concern for me, especially looking at where we're going to be at that full moon. That full moon on the 23rd of May will actually give us full viewing of what this Mars will do. I hope you had a good time as you went through those astrological alignments, and to always take that time to step back here and try not to look at life through here. Look at it through a much broader picture and recognize all of this is being completely instituted. What am I, you? What am I meant to learn from this? And I think one big thing we're all learning right now is you may not feel that you can help the whole entire world, but if you helped you and I helped me, and I could also help Sandy and George and Tom and Dick and Harry, and you could help you and Helen, and I feel I feel like I'm naming everybody in the world. What a much better place this would be. Pluto wants us to act with empathy, sympathy, understanding. Pluto, remember, is in the humanitarian sign of Aquarius. And so Pluto is asking, play your part. It's not about saving the whole entire world. You play your part. Help your neighbors. We all do that. That is what will change the world. Have an absolutely amazing time, everyone. I look forward to us coming back together. Please write your comments down below. I love reading your comments. Anything else specifically you may want to see on these videos, I'm always happy to do a video of some kind. Please help me grow the channel by subscribing or clicking the thumbs up button. That's always a help to anybody who is doing a social media channel wise. And I get this, in the fact of astrologers will take their time and do their videos. And so that everybody can learn and understand. And the way to reciprocate is actually to subscribe and hit the thumbs up button. Thank you very much. I look forward to seeing you all on my Facebook page, Holly Pool Astrology. You can check out my website, hollypool.com. Thank you for sharing your time with me.